All right, I can see people streaming in. Live stream started as well. Welcome to anyone online. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. We're just going to give everyone a couple of minutes to stream in. The people are still streaming quite thick and fast at the moment. So, we'll give everyone a couple of minutes. Thanks. All right. So for anyone just joining, we just giving everyone a couple of minutes just to get connected, get settled. Here's a bit of advice for anyone that's already on the call. Grab a pen and paper. We've got a lot to go through today. So we'll be starting very shortly. Just give it 30 more seconds and we'll get going. All right. I think everything's settled down. I think all the participants are in that are joining. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. AI in action, a closer look at Bullhorn Amplify. How exciting. Let's get under the hood of it. So, quick bit of housekeeping. For anyone who's wondering, yes, this session is going to be recorded and shared out to anyone who joined the Zoom webinar immediately afterwards or just shortly afterwards. For anyone that's on the LinkedIn live stream as well, don't worry, this will be on demand for anyone that marked as attending and is watching it today as well. Everyone will be on mute for the duration. We've got a lot to go through, so there won't be much talking apart from by myself or Brittany. And then lastly, there's a Q&A panel. Please feel free to get busy in there. This session is all about making sure that we can answer all the questions for our customers when it comes to AI. So we might not get through all the questions today, but we've got all the questions from the last session that Jason and Matt did that we're going to try and cover off in the content today. And then for any other questions that come through today, we'll try and get to as many as possible. But if not, we will definitely follow up as we go. So welcome to the webinar. As I said, AI in action, a closer look at Bullhorn Amplify. So today's webinar is going to be pretty action-packed. It's going to be full of information. So do get ready to jot down some notes and be prepared to rewatch this because you'll probably miss a few bits along the way. We're going to be digging deeper into AI and Bullhorn in general. It's not just about Amplify, which is what's recently been announced. We're actually going to get really under the hood and talk about all the capability of AI that we have today inside the platform. I'm joined by Brittany. Brittany, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Brittany Hollingsworth, if you don't know me, I am a senior product manager here at Bullhorn, focused on working with our teams for analytics and all things Amplify, which is why I'm super excited to talk to you guys today. This is the second time Ben and I are doing this, so it's really exciting to do it post-engage and to start talking about kind of where our focus is as far as it goes with AI, where we've been, where we are, where we're going in the future, show a lot of stuff that's happening now that people are using and some things that you can expect coming in the very near term. And this is really our product focus at Bullhorn, right? As I see it across all of our product teams, our goal here is to really start to reimagine recruitment with AI infused everywhere. And that doesn't mean that AI is doing every single task for you or every single thing. It means that we're using these tools that we have at our disposal in order to give you the time back to focus on really what matters, which is generating revenue and doing what you do best.
And I think what's really important about that as well is if we think about how our customers have been using it and the benefit of using AI inside Bullhorn is it's really enabled them to embed AI into new and existing workflows. I think new is the most exciting part of that for me because I think we're going to see a reinvention of some of the workflows in the industry coming from AI and some of the things that will be enhanced, some of the things that will be removed, some of the things that might be eliminated altogether. Also, using AI inside Bullhorn really helps you safely use it without giving up your data. So if you think about the early days of a couple of years ago when people were in ChatGPT, they were copying information out of CVs or out of the ATS, pasting it over in ChatGPT. God knows how much data leaked in those kind of early days where people were kind of giving Sam Altman and OpenAI all that data, and they were probably training with it. We've really designed this around safety, and we've really designed this around being able to embed this directly, you controlling what's hitting the large language models, but more importantly, you controlling the fact that the large language model is not doing anything with it as well. And then thirdly, it's about effectively scaling it across your business as and when you're ready to roll out all of the different kind of solutions, services, features that we're releasing when it comes to AI as well. Now, let's just think about the industry for a moment. Typically, we've always known, and kind of Matt and Jason spoken about this on the last one as well, but we've always known that in order to increase revenue, you typically have to increase your headcount in a business. And I've seen that. I'm 22 years in the industry now, 23 years in the industry, I think, and it's always been the way. The only way to increase your revenue is to really put more bums in seats. It's really about hiring aggressively and really driving through that kind of process, early stage recruiters in order to kind of see if you can get that revenue to uptick. And we really believe that actually we can unlock this with AI. And it's not only that, Brittany's about to take us through some stats, but what we've really seen from it is we're already seeing this in the early stages.
Yeah, absolutely. So we already have people that are using a lot of our AI tools today. And as we see that start to happen, we've seen some really exciting trends already begin and just what we feel like are the early days, right? So we've seen a 51% increase in the number of submissions for jobs. So as we're able to more effectively, efficiently, quickly find candidates that are good matches for jobs, that leads to more submissions. And then that gives us as well an improvement in our time to fill, time to submit, as we have these tools that are assisting us day to day. And one of the things that we hear whenever it comes to kind of hesitation or concern around starting to infuse AI into workflows is around the candidate experience. Are candidates really prepared to start talking to AI instead of a real person every single time? And as we've done over 10,000 screens so far, we see in the data that they are ready. We've seen a over 4-star experience from our candidates because instead of getting kind of that silence whenever you apply to a dozen jobs, they're getting feedback, they're getting responses, they're getting hits more often, and they're getting follow-ups as well. So this is something that people really are ready for.
Yeah, perfect. So there's the really common question I always get is where do we start? Where do we actually how do we get onto the journey when it comes to AI? So let's talk about that journey together for a moment and where and how we've been going through this at Bullhorn. So funny enough, the first stage of AI was never AI. It was all about automation. And you've been doing this for years already. And one of the most amazing things is you've got so much value from it already as well. So what are we saying about that? Well, you've got cleaner data than ever before. You've got people that are actually they're naturally used to letting systems communicate with their candidates and their clients now. And also, not only that, you've got way more productivity as well than there's ever been. Well, there's like 3.5 billion automation actions. That's insane numbers now. I remember when we were tracking low millions, and now we're already up to billions on this kind of thing. But not only that, 60% of our customers are already using it as well. So I would very I'd very much say that automation's the norm. Those that use Bullhorn use automation. That seems to be the commonality here. I'd say that 40 percentile is really more around really small customers that maybe haven't adopted it yet because they're still on their early journey as an organization, etc. And then the black and white figures kind of show themselves as well. We analyze the data religiously. We track all of this. We track the performance of our customers using it, and it's in black and white. 36% more placements per head come from agencies that use automation than those that do not use automation in our data. It's crystal clear that those that are automating at this stage are really ahead of the game and really seeing a lot of productivity as we go through it.
So we have this very solid foundation with automation, right? We have a lot of adoption. People love it. People use it. And then AI came in, right, a couple of years ago. And over the last 2 years, we've already cruised through basically 3 waves of AI that we're going to talk about today. And we'll start with the first, which is all about assistance. So it's using AI tools to help you manage basic tasks more quickly, more efficiently by using AI generative capabilities and matching models. So during this phase, we have learned a lot about what it can do well, what it can't do well. We're continuing to make improvements even in this first wave as we continue through. And we'll start by talking about the AI assistant, which is really, if you think about it, kind of ChatGPT and Bullhorn. So Ben mentioned that people have been using ChatGPT in your personal life and in your professional life for a long time now, right? And we saw that recruiters were taking data outside of Bullhorn, kind of losing that data security in order to generate content. And so it really was a no-brainer that this is something that we should integrate into Bullhorn. And so we started by giving the option for our clients to bring kind of their own LLM subscription, right? So you are using OpenAI or you're using Azure, you can plug that in and use the assistant to generate content that sits right in Bullhorn for you. But as we continue to evolve, we wanted to remove that barrier as well. And so we introduced the Bullhorn LLM. And this gives us the ability to host our own LLM and give our clients the chance to not have to manage subscriptions outside, not have to manage payment outside, not have to worry about token limits. Those are things that we can all take care of, and we can also make sure that we have the best models that will work for generating content for recruiters as we continue to move and as AI changes so quickly.
And Brittany, just to add, there was a question in the chat already about this, and you just answered it perfectly. In the they're using the assistant with OpenAI today. Yes, absolutely, you can move towards a Bullhorn LLM as part of this process as well.
Definitely. So let's talk about the way that some of our recruiters are using the assistant today. So I'm on a candidate here. I've engaged the assistant, and I can see on the right side that I have all of the tasks and the activities that the assistant can help me with today. I'm going to start on this candidate, James, by pitching him to one of my clients. Once I make that selection, I'm going to be prompted to then choose what job do I want to pitch James for, right? So I have a Java developer position open with my client that I think James is going to be a good fit for. And then there we have it, right? In matter of seconds, you have this pitch for James for this particular job. And I could take a look at this message. I could say, this looks great. I could move it over to compose a message, add in my signature, send that out, and have it ready to go. But now that our assistant is conversational in the way that ChatGPT is, I could easily ask for an adjustment as well. So this one is a little bit long for me. It's a little verbose. I like to be a little bit more concise, I guess, in my communications with my clients. So I'm going to ask the assistant to make it shorter for me, which it does in a matter of seconds, right? This is a great use for the assistant. And we've started you off with a number of default prompts that we think will be useful to you in your day-to-day work. But the added power of the assistant is that we really want this to be a tool that you can use in the workflows that you guys have proven and the workflows that your recruiters are using every day. And that's where our admin studio comes in. So basically in admin studio, you're going to have your library of tasks that the assistant can help you with. You can see that we have our default options here, but you also have the ability to create your own prompts and to make them available then to your users. So let's build one together. I'm going to create a prompt here that is candidate-based, and I'm going to enable it by default for everybody that has access to the assistant for candidates. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to very clearly and concisely define my instructions to the LLM. So in this specific prompt, I want to generate interview tips for my candidate based on a job that they're looking at. And I want the LLM in this case to act as if it is a hiring manager. I want it to focus on the tips that hiring managers look for while interviewing. And I also want it to include things to avoid, mistakes to look out for when interviewing as well. And again, I want this to be really short, clear, and easy to act on for my candidate. And then I can also define things here like what do I want my default tone, length, and language to be if I want it to be more formal or more casual. And then I can also choose what data the prompt that I'm building can access in order to build the right content, right? So I need it to know about certain pieces of information about my candidate or my job or both. And this is a list that we are continuing to expand. We'll talk about a little bit more so that you can make sure that the assistant has access to all of the data it needs to generate the right content and have all the information that's relevant. And again, you don't have to take this data outside of Bullhorn. You can use it, pull it right from here. And then I would say one of the most important parts whenever generating or creating new prompts for your team is that you can test that prompt using actual real data. In this case, by choosing a candidate that's in my system that has real live information. And so then it's going to generate a live answer for me. And I can use this to review, refine, retest, get to the point where I'm happy with the way that this is presented, and then make it available to all of my users. So in reality, you probably won't have an AI assistant sidebar that looks like this, but to generate the idea here that you really can create your own library of tasks that the assistant can help you with, and you can choose your own fate, and you can use this to work best for you. Today, we have our assistant available for your candidate, job, contact records. And then as we start to talk a little bit later, layering in that foundation of automation is going to make this even more powerful, even more useful for you. And so whenever we wrap up the AI assistant, so this is really like your generative sidekick in Bullhorn, right? You can have it right on your Bullhorn records. It's secure. You have predefined prompts to help you get started, but you'll also have the flexibility to expand it to build your own prompts. And it's going to turn your new recruiters into your best recruiters really quickly. We have that power to give you the Bullhorn LLM so that you don't have to necessarily bring your own subscription. You have the power of choice there. And then, like I mentioned, we have actually just very recently increased the number of fields that are available to the AI assistant, like something like 10 times. And so anybody that's using the assistant and has asked me or somebody else recently, hey, why can't I access this specific field on my candidate? The update is that you probably can today, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it's amazing. Cool. So let's talk about the other type of assisted AI that we have in Bullhorn today, and that's search and match. So if we take a look at it, what we're doing is reviewing a job and we're seeing a recommended candidate card. This is the kind of thing that's really enabled us to really improve the experience when it comes to being able to increase well, number one, increase the usage of Bullhorn first from a mentality perspective and driving people back towards a database first rather than going externally. But it's really just one of the other capabilities where it comes to AI that's really managed to improve just the user experience as a whole as well. So in this case, we've got a recommended candidate card. It's recommending us 54 candidates in the database that match this job at the moment. 9 of the 10 in the preview are actually a really, really high match score as well. And we can hit the blue button and we can simply just take a look and see what that search was that was built. So in this case, we're seeing a really nice, beautiful formed Boolean string. From that, we can also click into any of the keywords and we can see that it's being leveraged by keyword taxonomies, ontologies, synonyms, libraries, however you know it in the technology that you use today. Basically, you can put a keyword into the search now and it can actually search for all of the variants of that keyword at the same time. And then when we're ready, we'll see the actual list of candidates that come back. And the ranking and the relevancy here is all based on the sea of data. You've heard us talk about this tons of times over the last year now. We've trained models and we've enhanced the way that we can rank people, not just based on score anymore. We're actually doing something incredibly more powerful now. So it's not just looking at job title versus job title. We actually analyze the job description versus the CV on every single person here as well. And there's lots of other vectors and variables that we use to make sure that relevancy is as highly possible as possible. The best way to think about it is you've got a job spec and you've got a candidate CV. And as a seasoned recruiter, you should be able to look at both of those and know if that CV or that candidate is placeable at that job. And that's ultimately what the relevancy is doing here. Is we're just trying to drive the most relevant person that we think it could be most placeable, only based on the variables that we've searched on, but could be the most placeable person there based on the CV, the job title, the skills, the categories, the specialties, and all the other data that we've kind of used to train the sea of data as well. Not only can you search Bullhorn, but you can also go external. So as part of our acquisition trail that we've done when it comes to search and match, we've acquired companies like Sourcebreaker and our text kernel, where they offer external connectors to job boards. So you can take your searches externally when you want at the same time to enable you to be able to not only just reference people that are in the database, but also reference people that may be connected to your job boards via the credentials you've got available to you. And it can proactively even tell you if one of those people on a job board is inside Bullhorn already. And the incredible thing about that is it means you're not double spending on credits. You're not reacquiring the same candidate over and over again and spending money to reacquire them over and over again. So we're really removing that friction that we're seeing and we're hearing in the industry, which is people just keep going external and keep going to the same source again and just bringing the same candidate down and bringing the same candidate down. This is just going to connect that in a workflow for you. Typically, so most commonly what we see whenever we're speaking to customers and we want to give them demonstrations of search and match, we normally ask for examples of searches they run. We want to make sure we tailor it for them. So as part of that, we typically get a lot of, I would say, just normal looking Boolean strings come back. This is like just an example of a Boolean string that someone may send back. But actually using the system and all the keywords and the ontologies behind it, this is actually what the system is searching for. So you may only type in those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 keywords, but actually there's nearly 100, maybe over 100 keywords actually going to be presented back to you. And just to hit some of the questions from the last session around what external sources are supported, these are all the job boards that we connect to today. We're working on more. There's actually more connectors that we have in the tech stack of both text kernel and Sourcebreaker, and we're looking to migrate those over in time as well. But yeah, today the majority of the large job boards that we have in the US and the UK are already fully supported. I'm just going to hit a common question right now. LinkedIn and Indeed, we just do not connect to it. They just do not allow us to be able to connect to their candidate databases in a way that we do when it comes to typical CV and resume databases. So just to give you an answer, we cannot support searching those two platforms. So you don't need to throw that into the chat for this session anyway. But yeah, so that's AI powered search and match. Not only have we overhauled the whole list experience inside Bullhorn, which you could probably see by the screenshots, may look very different to what you're using today in candidate lists, but we've also got the ability to do things like recommended candidates. We've got auto built searches. We've got keyword expansion. We've got external sourcing. We've got search alerts that's actually coming very, very soon as well. So that means that not only can you build a search, you can save a search and it'll alert you through the platform at the same time. And then we've also got things like credit limit management. So when you connect all of the credentials in there, you can set limits as to how many times someone can spend a credit with a job board, and custom keyword groups as well, which is now supported. So lots of different features that we got there.
Awesome. So that's wave one. And it's all about AI assisting you where you are with tasks that you're doing today, kind of on an individual level, right? And then we have wave two, and this one happened really fast. So instead of just helping with tasks, we have agents that are actually performing those tasks on your behalf using AI. We released this earlier this year with a number of agents, and we've already seen a crazy amount of adoption, right? We've done over 115 million AI actions with over 700 of our customers starting to use this type of technology, which is really exciting for us to see as we see people embracing AI and the way that it can help their business. But let's talk about like what even is an agent, right? This is kind of a buzzword. You've probably heard it being floated around, agentic AI. What does that really mean? And it's pretty simple, right? It's just a combination of the AI solutions that we have with your assistant, with the matching, with screening, that huge foundation that we have with automation and the ability to segment and trigger actions based on a number of different things. And then bringing those two together in the Venn diagram allows us to build agentic workflows, which are using AI in automated ways, right?
So typically, what does an agentic workflow look like? So here's just an example of a visualization of an automation step by step as we kind of go through. Just like in any automation, there's always a trigger. So in this case, it could be a record change, it could be a user action, it could be a scheduled event, a time, or something triggering like an end date or an availability date triggering that kind of thing. But in this example, what we're doing is we're just going to extract some information that we don't already have in a structured field and just put it in that structured field. And in this case, it's just going to be who's the last known employer of the candidate, and let's get that into the current employer field inside Bullhorn. So what's actually happening? Well, step by step, triggers happening. We've got a step, the AI assistant step, which is now just calling the LLM. So in this case, it could be the Bullhorn LLM, and we've got a custom prompt. And that custom prompt is just going to be alluding around, hey, look at all the information in this resume or this CV, and extract the last known employer, and then give it back to us just as a string of text. So we just want it to be the employer name. So at which point the LLM generates a content. We receive that back inside automation, and now it's just an update step. It's really straightforward, actually. So all we're now doing is we're just going to go and store it where we want it to be. This is no different to the way that you can just do an update candidate step and just change a current employer today, or you can flow it back from a survey or from a chatbot, and just that field can flow straight back to that field at the same time. And it's that straightforward, and the record's now enriched. Doesn't seem that complex, but think of the value. If you've got hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of candidates inside your database, and your data quality isn't that good, and it's not about just sending out messages to the candidate in order to have them update their data. It's also about being able to just extract it based on other information elsewhere in the system at the same time. So this is actually a really common agent that a lot of people kind of turn on and go through. But there's other places that people kind of looked for these agents or this agentic capability. So we had things like enrichment, as I just said. We also had matching. So it's great that we can visualize recommended candidates when you're sitting in the seat and you're staring at Bullhorn. But how can a system do this agentically to really improve that kind of auto match and message kind of experience that everyone uses inside automation? Then the third one is that outreach. So we've got the match, now we've got the message, but it's about being a lot more dynamic in the outreach. In order to outreach to someone, it's quite a structured kind of template, but how can we get more dynamic and use generative AI along the way? So we'll show an example of that in a moment as well. And then lastly, it's about screening. And this is a huge opportunity for us for everyone in the industry to really speed up that top of the funnel activity. And we'll dig under the hood of this. But this is exactly where customers did deploy as well. They were asking us for this capability, and we managed to do it very quickly by connecting the dots between AI and automation. But what we saw was our customers very quickly leaned in this, and this was a lot of that early success that we saw in the stats earlier as well. But there was something else that was really unique that happened. And if you think about some of the really low margin jobs that people maybe don't work because it's not worth the effort, you don't typically find a lot of candidates. It might be that the margins are too low, you don't make much money on it if you put a person in a chair in order to work them, etc. Well, we saw quite a few of our customers go towards a recruiterless model for a subset of their opportunity in their business as well. So in this case, this is just a VMS job coming in, really super low margin, not much effort or really care about working these jobs. But in order to win more business with your client, you need to do some business with your client. So a lot of people took that opportunity just to really just turn on a whole autonomous level of this when it comes to doing their recruitment as well.
Love it. Let's dive into each of these individually, let's say. We'll start with enrichment. So enrichment is kind of that first agent that we'll talk about. And it's going to use a couple of things together, right? It's going to use the power of our AI assistant and the prompt studio that we have to build your own prompts or use our own default prompts. And then we're going to use this assistant step or the enrichment step in automation. So let's just build an example together because that's the best way to learn, right? So I'm going to start and I'm going to take a look at this Java developer record that I have. I have this new job that's coming in and I have technically an internal description for this job, but I don't know about you. I think that this probably isn't really up to par. And so I could take care of this right here, right? Like on an individual basis, I could click on that AI assistant button. I could improve the job description using generative content. But if this problem exists on one job, it probably exists on a number of other ones. So I'm going to take it over to automation instead. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to build an automation that's going to grab jobs from my new VMS jobs list, and I'm going to enrich that job then by doing a couple of things. I'm going to select the prompt that I want. In this case, it's a default prompt that Bullhorn gives to you today called improved job description. And then what I want to do with that improved job description is I want to save it directly into my internal description field. And so now, once I start running this, if I go back to any of those new VMS jobs, I'll see that I have an improved description, and it only took me the time that it took me to set up that automation to take care of this problem indefinitely. And really with enrichment, there are endless use cases that you can apply this to, right? You can do things like data cleanup where you're extracting a last known job title to fill out that field in Bullhorn to make sure you have all of the relevant information where it needs to be without doing that manually. You can create things like a quick candidate summary that's always available for your recruiter when they land on a specific candidate record. Or I've heard dozens of other ideas just using this step from clients. And I hope that those things are also kind of buzzing around in your brains as well.
Yeah, we'd love to hear some ideas from people as we connect over the next few months. That's definitely for sure. Okay, so let's go to not phase two. Let's go to agent number two, which is matching. So very similar setup in terms of the way I'm going to kind of set the scene. First of all, what does the matching agent use? Well, let's think of it as we've got the AI recommended candidates and we've got the traditional automation match step, which hundreds and hundreds of customers already use today. So again, we'll build one together. So I'm going to start in a job and I'm going to add that match step. And that match step traditionally was using the engine that runs inside automation in order to identify candidates. And we used to be able to do things with it, but we've now enhanced that. So anyone that uses Bullhorn Search and Match, as we call it now, which is a new version, they're actually going to get a consistent experience. So the same matching candidates that you're seeing when you're looking at the job will be the same ones that are utilized through automation. So just to call out that we're connecting the dots here, consistent experience going through. And then typically we've normally done some kind of outputs with this. The first one would be something like, hey, maybe we just want to auto shortlist the top 10 matching candidates to the job. So now all we can do is just come in and just manage the submission list and see which ones we want to pick to get submitted out and out the door to the client. Or typically we may just receive an email notification internally. So this is just my corporate inbox and I've added a new job and within a few minutes, I've got all these recommended candidates that are here. This is great for if you want to come into work the next day. And this is now an action list for you to start working your way through. But there's also added bonuses to this as well, because it's not just about where we use match for the recruiter, it's also about where we use match to enhance the candidate experience as well. So in things like chat, we've always had the ability to display the matching jobs, or in this case, the top 3 matching jobs. So as that candidate's kind of going through the process and they're engaging with the chatbot on your website, well, now we can just display them. But now we know it's the same, it's just the reverse of the recommended ones that are there as well. So we're now going to see more relevant jobs than ever from a candidate experience as well.
Awesome. Which brings us over to kind of our next step with outreach. So just like before, whenever we talked about those components, the outreach agent also uses that AI assistant prompt studio along with our assistant step in automation in order to to build out things that are tasks that you do every single day, but that are super important. And again, let's build an example. The goal with this outreach that I'm going to build is that I want to build upon the Bullhorn search and match functionality that Ben's been talking about. And I want to then alert my candidates when I have jobs that are a good fit for them. My first step here, I'm actually going to do a couple of steps. So hang on tight. My first step is that I want the AI assistant to help me generate the message to my candidate that's tailored to the specific matching job, right? So I'm back in our admin studio on the AI assistant side. I'm going to prompt this to build a personalized message for each job. I want it to include things like a description of the job. I want to make sure that I have details like the contract length, the expected start date, key responsibilities, all of those details that are going to help a candidate consider whether this position could be right for them. And you can see here on the right that I've generated the content for my Java developer position to ensure that it's giving me everything that I want, that I like the tone, I like the way that it's being presented. So I'm going to save this as a prompt and I'm going to make it available for automation to then pick up. So I'm going to pop over and I'm actually going to build my first of two automations. And I'm actually going to build this using the enrichment step. So we're kind of tying all the pieces together here. And what I want this step to do is I want it to look at my new jobs that are coming in. And then I want it to use that enrichment step to push the generated content that we just created a prompt for into a field on the job. And that's really just the job of this automation. We're just enriching the record with this content that I then want to use later. So if I were to go back to one of these jobs, I can see that I have that job pitch pushed into a field that I've called AI generated content. Probably not something that you're going to have on your overview page, but just to show you that it is there and it works and it lives on the record. And then now we can actually build our outreach. So I'm going to start in this automation with a list of auto-match candidates based on Bullhorn search and match. And then I'm going to send them an email where I'm inserting that generated content for each specific job to then send to that candidate. And like, this isn't a revolutionary process, right? Like people do this today. You use automation to do it today to push out job alerts. But whenever we combine the power of AI generated content and the assistant with automation, we can move from an alert that looks something like this, where it's basic information, it's got a couple of details. I'm not being persuaded to necessarily get this job, to something that's a little bit more robust and it has more information. It's speaking in a tone from a person to a person, and it's really giving the candidate all of the information that they need to actually consider whether that job is right for them.
Okay, agent number 4. We're really chugging through this. I'm quite impressed with the amount of time that it's taken us so far. So number 4, screening. So screening is a bit of a different one to the others because not only is it what we call an agent in terms of the agent's wave that we're in, this is actually an agent all in its own as well in terms of what it does. But it's really turbocharging it when we start to do it in an agentic way. So let's think about screening for a moment. Lots of candidates enter the top of your database, right? They always go into the funnel, but very few ever turn into placements. Biggest issue with this ratio is most of your time is lost actually screening wrong applicants. There's so much time lost in this top end of the funnel that actually it just makes a huge impact in productivity. So that's one stage where we've got this kind of pain and we've got this kind of lost opportunity to gather back time. Then we couple that with kind of what Brittany was talking about as well. Like we saw it in some of the stats that came through from the screening agent feedback. But even if we go back to the talent trend survey from Grid, we could see it in the data here as well. So 81% of candidates are happy to use AI as long as it's speeding up the process for them. And then 63% of candidates say that working with AI, they're actually receiving faster responses. So they're seeing the value in AI, and that's why they're willing to engage with it, and that's why they're probably really enjoying using a screening agent from a score perspective. But again, let's just talk about what the screening agent uses, because I'm going to turn this agentic in this case. So I'm going to use an automation assistant step, and then I'm also going to be using the actual AI screening agent itself, and we'll talk about what that does. So again, let's build together. First and foremost, every job that enters the system, the key thing that we want in order to use AI to screen candidates is we need screening questions. So we now have a new step that's available in automation for anyone that's using the screening agent. It's called Add Screening Questions. It's dedicated to just doing a task, and that is take all the information from a job and generate screening questions. What you're seeing here is like a configuration page. You're not seeing the screening questions, but in this case, what we're actually going through is We want four screening questions generated. We also want to make sure the very first question that's always asked is the pre-screening question. And then at the very end, after the four screening questions, we also want post-screening questions as well. Now, just to say, we're generating four questions, but if any of you have ever seen a demo of the screening agent, it asks more than four questions. Because if it doesn't receive enough information from a candidate, it's trained and it's designed to dig in deeper and get more information and try and draw as much out the candidate as possible. So it's incredibly conversational in its design. So that's kind of the configuration of it, which means that when you're in a job, you can now hit a screening question tab and you'll see them all available to you. This is also an added benefit for just recruiters that are navigating Bullhorn as well. If they're actually outreaching to a candidate they found online somewhere, or for whatever scenario, these questions are now going to improve their capability of being a recruiter, and when it comes to qualifying candidates, exponentially as well. Because now every single job has screening questions that are relevant to the job. You don't have to think about it so much anymore, and it can really take your day one recruiters to deal one very, very quickly at the same time. So let's flip persona and let's be a candidate for a moment. I'm on the website, I'm navigating around, I find a job, and I'm going to apply for it. Well, typically when I apply, and again, Brittany's kind of alluded to this, we've got the candidate experience black hole, right? The majority of the time I'm applying knowing full well I'm probably never going to hear anything outside of a system automated message, which is just saying, we have your application. No call to action, nothing to do. Probably going to archive the email and forget I even applied for the job at some stage. But instead, what you can do is the first follow up can now be, we have your application, exactly what I just said. But in this case, what we've got is you now have an actionable next step. In order to proceed your application, we're actually speeding up the process and we're turbocharging this for you to be able to have a conversation with our screening agent to actually find out how relevant you are for this role. So what happens then? They click the blue button, they take the screening, come back to the website, the chatbot opens up, and they start to engage with the agent. Couple of things. First of all is you don't just want to go straight into a voice conversation. The first thing you actually want to do is you want to start just understanding whether the candidate is suitable at a high level knockout stage. So you'll probably just start to go through things like, are you eligible to work in the country? Can you work 40 hours a week? Whatever the scenario is, that's very easy. And that's stuff that systems can do today, but it's stuff that can just remove a lot of the noise at the top of the funnel just as a whole anyway. But should they get through those and they answer all those questions correctly, then now they get the option to go through to the voice screening agent as well. So then at which point you're talking to the agent, and it starts to become conversational. I'm not going to show you a demo of it today. Many demos have already happened out there, so I'm sure many people on the call today have already kind of seen it. But as you know, it is a conversation, and it does dig deeper, and it does drive the candidate to answer in a more solid way as well. But the benefit is once they do take that screening, first and foremost is we get an internal notification that a screening's completed, and we can go straight back to the job record and we can see the screening for each candidate that's there. So what we're seeing in this information, it comes back as a note first of all, which means it's accessible to everybody. But you see an overall summary of the candidate, including like a relevancy score. Again, this isn't like a black and white, if they score a certain number, you should reject them. This is a recommendation based on all of the conversation that's happened as to whether you should prioritize speaking to them or maybe low prioritize speaking to them. But you're seeing things like the summary, you're seeing an analysis. What you're not seeing on screen is there's like focus areas for the recruiter as well. So there's like a ton of high value that if you are going to talk to this candidate, here's some areas to kind of stick to make sure that you focus on getting more information out the candidate based on the conversation that they've had previously. And then last, you see a full transcript of the conversation as well. So you'll actually see verbatim everything the agent said and everything that the candidate said at the same time. Now, James did score quite high. Maybe we've got a threshold that if it's over 80, we absolutely want to move James on to the next step. Well, the next step is I want to talk to him. So what now we can just have James self-serve, because within minutes of him actually completing that screening, he's now receiving the next step. Think e-commerce. Think about the way that when couriers or Amazon ship stuff to you, you kind of see steps and you know which step of the process it's at from it leaving the factory and getting to your house. Very similar experience here. So now you can send an email like this, where it's actually the follow-up is, we want to do a recruiter interview. So now I can click the button, book time in the recruiter's diary, and then what's happening next? Well, when the recruiter's on the phone with the candidate, they're absolutely going to be utilizing this information while they're having that conversation. The key thing is instead of talking to 10 candidates, 5 of them were absolutely unqualified, 3 of them were potentially good, and then 2 fits, and then maybe you get a placement out of it. What you are doing now is you're spending every moment speaking to candidates that are strong, they are qualified, they are relevant for the job, and that gives you an opportunity to either upsell more candidates into your client. Maybe they will take two if they're really strong candidates, and this is a way of doing it. But if not, you can also now sell those candidates out elsewhere to your other clients that also hire in this market as well. And from those 10 very strong candidates you spoke to, maybe you'll get more like 3 or 4 placements coming out of it. But it doesn't stop there, because we've now got this submission list, or the short list, of all of the high scoring silver medalists as well. So we've now got the perfect content to go to market and start advertising your services and prospecting your clients and your prospects with really high value content and CVs as well. So I'm going to bring this slide back a moment, because I think this really makes sense. First and foremost is, yeah, all the stats on the left are really increasing based on all these agents. But on the right-hand side, what we're also seeing is there's no surprise it's an incredible experience, because candidates are actually being turbocharged through the process now, and they can control this all in their own time. This isn't a telephone call that they receive. This is actually just an email link. So they can choose the right moment and the right time that they want to engage with the screening agent. Maybe it's on a Thursday evening once the kids are abed and dinner's done. Now they can sit down and concentrate on actually going through this assessment. And that's the flexibility and the beauty of it. And I think that's one of the main reasons as why they're scoring so high as well. So that's the AI screening agent. It's really about intelligent question generation, candidate fit analysis. You've got a job description comparison. You've got top of the funnel automation, and you've also got that really enhanced candidate experience. But most of all, it's all about the recruiters just having free time just to focus on the right candidates first. So that's wave 2. We've got through so much, and we've not even got to Amplify yet. So we're going to keep pushing on. So what is Amplify? So let's think about this for a moment. Well, Amplify really is just everything that we've just spoken about. So think of it as the assistants, think of the agents, and think of it as everything that's still to come as well. So we're going to kind of break this down now, and we're going to start to look more forward facing, and some of the things that our customers are just starting to get their hands on now, and some of the things that we're really focusing on developing as we speak. So I'm going to hand it back to Brittany for a second.
Awesome. So yeah, we have this third wave of AI. Amplify was, the big thing if you guys were at Engage that we talked about. It was everywhere. It was a very exciting product launch for us. And it's actually stuff that is real, that our clients are getting access to very, very imminently. So it's really fun to get to talk about kind of what we're doing and why we're doing it. So basically what would make Amplify this third wave, right? So a couple of things here. Not only is it going to allow you to take action, but it also recommends your next best action based on what we know as Bullhorn about your records and your business. It can not only perform single actions, but it can perform multiple actions at the same time. And it's also going to deliver automation to the desk level, which we'll dive in and talk about what that means in a little bit. But it is honestly really cool and kind of game changing if you think about it. And so basically what we've done with Amplify is that we've given it the skills of your top performers, right? Everything from being able to source and match, to do screenings, to submit candidates, to research on the sales side and present and outreach to people, and really covering kind of the whole gamut left to right here. And the cool thing is that it's completely embedded into the workflows and really infused into Bullhorn across Bullhorn products as you traditionally know them. You can chat with Amplify just like you would ChatGPT. You can deploy agents directly from lists or records. You have the studio to configure everything that fits with your business. And you'll have Amplify deeply embedded into each record everywhere that you go, which is a really exciting update for us as we move from assistants to agents to Amplify.
And not only that, what we're not talking about just the Bullhorn platform here. What we're talking about is this is agnostic on both of our go-to-market platforms. So whether it's the Bullhorn platform or whether it's the Bullhorn Recruitment Cloud, we're basically designing exactly the same capability. The way that we're going to get there may differ slightly. We know there's a lot of native capability on Salesforce already when it comes to agents with Agentforce. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel here. If we can use Agentforce to deliver some of these capabilities, we'll do that, because it will speed it up and it will embed it even deeper into our Salesforce-based customers' like workflows and everything that's there. But the way to think about it is, yes, how we do it may be specific to Salesforce, but the outcomes will all be the same. So that's it. It's agnostic on both. That's amazing. I'm going to hand it back to Brittany and we're going to start to dig in. So should we take a look?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that all sounds really cool, right? It's a lot of stuff to talk about, but I think it makes more sense if we actually look at it. So we're going to go kind of back to the beginning. I'm going to start on a candidate record, just like I did way back when, like 40 minutes ago on this webinar. And I'm going to start by opening the Amplify window here. you'll immediately notice that it looks a little bit different than the way that our AI assistant looks on the candidate record today. And we've done some cool things here. We've made it collapsible. We've made it movable so that you can move it around and always see the data behind it without losing any of your progress. And whenever I look kind of into the content here, I'm going to see that I'm going to get a couple of new things. I'm going to get a summary of recent activities, so kind of like quick hits of what's going on with this candidate, or if I'm looking at a job or a contact, where are they at in the process? Have they completed AI screens? Are they placed? Do they have submissions? And it's also going to, like I mentioned, suggest those next actions right when I land here. So I don't necessarily have to know what I need to do. Amplify is going to help direct you to what makes the most sense. So for Jane, my first suggestion here is to draft a check-in message. And I'm actually going to take that option because Jane is currently placed, but her assignment is actually ending really soon. And so just by clicking that suggestion, Amplify has provided me with that check-in message that's tailored to Jane. And I now have additional options here that I didn't necessarily before. I can, just like always, I can make adjustments. I could make it shorter. I could change the tone. I could have it, kind of reorder this in a way that I like. But I can also now take action right from this chat. So if I click on our actions dropdown, I have a few options. I could add this content into a note. I could update a field on Jane's profile, or because this is a message that I probably want to send to Jane, I can push this content directly into compose a message. So then as we continue to evolve Amplify, you can even do things like adjust your messaging further wherever you're at, wherever you have put that content. I'm gonna make a small change here, add some bullet points, and then this is basically ready to send all within 4 or 5 clicks, 3, 4, something like that. Cool stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. So now let's go back and look at a different scenario. So in this time, I'm just going to pop over to a job. Again, I'm just going to open up my Amplify window, and we're seeing some different context here, right? It's context aware. It knows the record it's on, so it can be very specific in what we're talking about. So in this case, what we're seeing recommended candidates. We're seeing update the job descriptions. There's actually even prompting us to use a prompt that maybe we've designed or maybe one that's available in the system, or we could even set up a sourcing agent, and we'll talk about a sourcing agent in a moment. But I also want to call out the red icon. So when you see the numbers along the top, what this red icon is actually telling us is we've designed a new model, and that model is designed to look at all the historical activity that happens on that client for that job, on that contact for that job. And it can look at the analysis of what's the trend history in the past when it comes to submission to placement. So now what it's doing is it's proactively recommending we should submit at least 5 candidates in order to successfully get a placement. So we can kind of click and hover on it, and we can see what that kind of information looks like as well. And yeah, just like the assistant, I can click the chat bar and actually I get a shortcut to all of my prompts. So the prompt studio you can still go and build all your own custom prompts, and they're all available here as we go as well, just the way you're used to it. But in this case, I'm just going to choose maybe recommended candidates. You're asking why? Well, yeah, I can see the recommended candidate card on the screen, but you don't have to have it visible on the screen if you don't want. So we're giving you the flexibility to take these actions anywhere you want. And what this will actually do is this will just open up the entire candidate list for us. So just like we saw in Search and Match, we've got all it's sorted by relevancy. We're seeing all of the matching candidates. And now when I click in to actually preview and look at what's going on in terms of my search, we now get this new area in the bottom left of that kind of pop-up. And what that's telling us is boost candidates. So this is another capability that we're bringing in where we're now going to enhance the AI power even more. So if we work from the bottom up, this will be things like, hey, only include people that have a screening score of over 80. So maybe those silver medalists I was talking about, well, maybe they're the ones I want to prioritize. We're not filtering here, we're boosting these candidates. So we're impacting the relevancy scoring with our own unique business logic as well. It might be something like, have they been on assignment over the last 12 months? Maybe we've onboarded them in the past, so therefore it's a low barrier of entry to onboard them again. Maybe it's things like recent key activities, and you'll define what that kind of looks like. And a really exciting one here as well, and especially with Brittany on, because Brittany actually is the product manager for analytics, is we've also launched a data hub. And the data hub is a place where you can store not only Bullhorn data, and we've done it for all of the different product solutions we've got, but it's a way for marketplace partners to bring their data into the platform as well. But more importantly, what Brittany's been working on is expanding analytics to be able to actually view all that data, so you can really data warehouse a lot of your different systems now and have business intelligence sitting over the top of it that's completely laser focused on your recruitment activity. So in this case, think things like a positive reference recently. Well, that'll be driven by Ref Assured in the US or Referoo in the UK or in APAC. So just having these marketplace partners that can drive their data in can really boost it, knowing that these are really highly referenceable candidates as well. So Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a sourcing agent, because when we go through the workflow of saving this in order to get notifications later, we're going to turn on that sourcing agent. We're going to pick the sources we want. Do we just want external sources? So we just feed the database. Do we want just a Bullhorn search? So we just get notified every time someone new appears that I care about. Or maybe this is specific for a job, so I will just select all of the sources. And that's it. So I've kind of gone through it. I've built my search, and now I've got it set up. It's going to alert me whenever it's there. And now when I hit the Amplify tab, I can see all of the activity that's kind of happening at this stage. But what is the next stage? Well, before I go back to my search and start taking action, maybe I want to make sure that these screening questions are what I think they need to be. So in this case, I'm seeing a section at the bottom of screening questions. I can go in, I can call up Amplify and maybe rework these questions if I want and make them a lot more tailored to what I wanted. And then from there, I can come back, select the people in the list I want, and I can just take that action, which is to add them to the screening agent. And then we get presented with the new agent, the new screening agent add window, which looks very similar to the submission process today. We've enhanced it with a bit more information down the right hand side. There's no new workflows to learn in this. This feels very familiar to the way people use Bullhorn today. And again, candidates will now go to your website. They'll start engaging with the chatbot. One thing to call out here actually is this is an enhancement that's coming very, very soon. Rather than going to a dedicated website to take a screening, everything will happen inside the chat pop-up. So for those of you that are already leveraging chatbots and your candidates are used to using the chatbot environment, this is going to be very low barrier of entry for you. You're going to be able to just turn this on and just be able to start using it if you sign up to it. But but it also means then that it's all in one place. There's no you start here and you finish there kind of process. It's just going to be completely seamless. So now I've done that. I've invited people to screen and I come back looking at the Amplifier tab again. And in this case, what I've now got is, well, that's great. I've got 3 people submitted at this stage. So I've got 3 out of that 5. And I've got 4 people that are screened that maybe I need to think about taking action with.
Let's see what we do next. So let's kind of continue down this process that we're going. So let's say that I received an email that Jane had completed her screening, or maybe I'm on an Amplify homepage that we might talk about a little bit later that shows me information across my candidates, and I see that she's completed the screen. So I'm going to go into her record. I'm going to open Amplify. And now, if you look close, you can see that we have some different suggested actions here because Jane is in a different place in the hiring process than she was earlier when we drafted that check-in message. I'm going to ask Amplify to show us the screening report that we have. And it's going to open up a note in the side panel that's going to give us a ton of information about this AI screen that Jane did. So I was not there during the screen. I did not do it myself. And yet I have all of this information presented to me about Jane and what was found in her screen. I can see that she has a great score over here of 90 as we score our candidates from 0 to 100 from their screens. I can get a summary of kind of everything that happened in that transcript with her. I can get an analysis of Jane as a candidate for this role and suggested focus areas. And using AI Screen can really help us go beyond kind of like what you see on a candidate's record or what is in a candidate's resume. And we've seen our clients get some really cool experience out of here. So Matt is one of our clients who's using Screener, and they had an instance where the screening agent was able to find out that a candidate actually had Neo4j experience, even though it wasn't on their CV. And they said, we never would have called this candidate. They had a candidate sitting there that was a great fit for this job. One piece of missing information from their resume would have kicked them completely out of the process. And the AI screen is able to quickly find that information and present it to you without you having to spend the manual time screening hundreds of candidates, right? So we'll go back to that screening summary. I want to now take an action because Jane's got a 90 score. She's a great fit. I can see now in the dropdown that I'm being prompted to submit this with Amplify. And that's going to bring us to one of our new tools that comes with Amplify, which is called Amplify Present. This is a really cool, exciting thing that's going to leverage generative AI to generate documents by either reformatting, anonymizing CVs and resumes, or if you work in an industry that you're not using resumes, it can use this feature to generate other types of content, other types of documents that you would need using Bullhorn data. So you can choose your template here on the right. We can see Jane's somewhat questionable resume here on the left.
Yeah, she may be a good project manager, but she's not very good at making a CV, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't even know what font we would call this, but I would highly recommend not using it in anybody's resumes if you're beefing those up. But whenever we choose our template, we can see here on the right that we have an updated resume for Jane. And we can even use Amplify Assistant to make adjustments from here as well. So if I want to kind of highlight and change her summary into an executive summary with bullet points, that's easy to do as well. It will replace that content. And then when I'm happy, I have everything ready to submit Jane to this client for the job that she was screened for, that she seems like a great fit for. And then again, our Amplify tab on the record is going to keep us up to date. So we can see that these statuses have changed, and we can see that for this project manager job, we have more people that have been submitted and have moved through that screening process.
So that's everything from the recruiting side. Now let's go into the sales side, because there's some really super exciting stuff there. But just to recap, we saw how we could source better, we saw how we could match better, we saw how we could screen with Amplify and kind of really connect the dots in those workflows. And then from a submission perspective, we could really easily just what we heard was we didn't want workflows that would kind of do this, that would do the submittal for them. That people weren't looking for that. They were just looking for ways of just removing the friction of just getting the documentation ready to get it out the door and improve it. So let's go over to the sales side of things. I know we've only got 5 minutes left. If anyone's got a hard stop, don't worry. The recording will continue and we'll get through this. So we'll get through this very, very quickly. First and foremost, I just want to quickly talk about automation for a moment. As I said, so many of our customers are using it. Remember this screen. This is a new capability where we don't just design automations to run in the background anymore. We also design automations to be templates available for our users. I'll get to it in a moment, but just remember this workflow. So what have we got? Well, now I'm going to go over to a contact record. Same scenario. I open up Amplify, and in this case, I'm seeing a fresh set of recommendations. I'm also going to go down the bottom, and maybe in this case, I just want to summarize the most recent activity that we've got with Bill. So just to hit, now in Amplify, we can also get access to things like emails and notes as well. So when the generative capabilities are happening, it's also referencing 12 months worth of emails, the last 10 emails, the last 10 notes, whatever scenario you want to set up here as well. But it now summarizes all the key highlights. The key thing is I actually want to follow up because I just want to find some personal insights just so I can reconnect with Bill. So in this case, I just say, can you find me something more personal? And now based on conversations that I may have had in a note transcript from a phone call, from an email, we can now see some more information that I can just use to personalize this. So I take an action and I add him to outreach. So outreach is the new capability where we've now actually got automation at the desk level. We're leveraging the capability of automation, of setting up sequences of outreaches and communications, but we bring it through to the desk level, to the record level, so you can then leverage these templates. But they are templates because you can go in and you can start to personalize these now that Bill's in this outreach. So I could come in and maybe inject some information I just discovered as part of that, as part of research. And then this is connected now. It's all part of the platform. One of these outreaches may actually be, hey, I've got a profile that I really want you to check out. And knowing that Brittany just packaged up Jane with a nice, beautiful, new looking CV, well, maybe I want to leverage that as part of this outreach as well. So I can absolutely do that. So that's it. We can connect the dots here and then it looks good. So out we go. So now we can just turn on the campaign. So what's actually happening? Well, at Bill's level, at the Amplify level, at the tab, we can see all the activity, all the campaigns, what the suggested next action is. Don't forget, this is all powered by automation as well. So we're seeing all of the engagement happening. The fact that he recently clicked on our website, maybe something caught his eye in my communication. Is there a better time to lift the phone and speak to Bill while he's looking at the website? Absolutely not. But as we know, and as Matt said last time, you're not going to sit here and just keep refreshing this tab on Bill, waiting for things to happen. So we've actually designed another way to do it as well.
Absolutely. Like I alluded to, we aren't always, kind of sitting on Jane's record, waiting for her to complete her screen. And so we built this Amplify homepage, which gives you kind of that top-down view into everything that Amplify is helping you with, things like your active outreach campaigns, but also tasks and people you need to be aware of, actions that you might need to take next, so that you don't have to kind of wade through those records. You can actually get recommendations straight from this higher level, which is really exciting and will help to kind of improve that productivity. So we've made a ton of changes and we're making a ton of improvements with Amplify. Let's quickly recap some of those things kind of around like your experience on a record, right? We've made the chat more movable, resizable. It's going to retain your history. It's going to return responses in rich text. It's going to show you relevant information when you get there and also recommend those next actions. I saw a couple of questions in the chat around this. It's going to bring in even more data sources for the assistant to help you with. So things like notes, emails, submission history, placement history. It allows you to seamlessly take action outside of the chat. And we have that dual entity capability for custom prompts like we do with the default prompts that we've set, where you can have a candidate and a job tied together. And so really is a huge impact that we're going to see Amplify have, right? We've been doing this type of work with automation, with other tools for a long time here at Bullhorn. But we're going to see things change, right? Like we're going to go from having this kind of generic engagement, which is a great model and has worked for a long time, to be able to make those more hyper personalized using AI and having awareness of all of that information. We're going to move from tons of manual processes and, like Ben said at the very beginning, having to really increase your headcount to just kind of do those tasks, to making those processes more automated. And then we're not going to be bogged down anymore in the top of the funnel here. We're really going to like kind of move down and work closer to where that revenue is going to be generated. And so our goal here is for you to be able to make more placements, which means more profit, while using the same great team that you have by leveraging these types of tools.
Okay, prepared this last slide because the majority of questions I'm seeing in the chat are all commercial based ones, right? How do I get it? When do I get it? What's the version called? Do I have it today, etc. Crystal clear in terms of what we've got. So first and foremost, from a wave one perspective, where we think about it, we've got automation and we've got assistance. So if you're not using automation or assistance today, it's the perfect place to get started. It's going to be the wave that we saw is actually like a productivity curve. You need to start at the beginning. You can't start at the very top. So it's a perfect place to do that. Talk to your account manager. What you're going to hear a lot on this slide is talk to your account manager, talk to your known rep if you're not a Bullhorn customer yet and you're checking this out. Have the conversation. There's different ways that customers can start to utilize these tools. We're not gonna talk about the commercial elements of it on this. This was really about just unlocking what was going on in there. But yeah, perfect place to start. Then we've got search and match. It's such a key part of the recruitment process, and it can be brought up to the next level with AI as well. So yeah, again, if you want to learn more, have a conversation, we can organize demos for you, etc. And then Amplify. We've talked a lot about what you can already do today with agents. But then and for anyone that may have recently bought an edition of automation called Agent Edition, or anyone that's currently going through demos, now known as Amplify Edition, right? So it's all there, all the capabilities going to be there. But not only do we speak about the things that you can do today and the kind of harnessing the power of automation and AI combined, we've also got all of this amazing stuff that's coming very quickly as well when it comes to the desk level, where you can leverage AI more in your workflows, where you can really call it up anywhere you need it to be, where you can bring people into outreach campaigns and really drive your own desk level automation. So it doesn't have to be happening systematically wide across the entire business. You can control who goes into it, who comes out of it, etc. as we go. So that's it. That's the last slide. 171 slides. There was so much content to go through. That's an insane number for a webinar. We got there with only 2 minutes late. The Q&A, we're going to go and take this off. We're going to make sure we get responses to anyone. Apologies to anyone who is an anonymous attendee, or they mark the anonymous when they ask a question. We're not going to know how to follow up to you. But again, we'll make sure we answer as many of these as we can. And then I'm sure there'll be another one of these very, very soon where we'll make sure that we cover off all those questions as well. But yeah, for now, Brittany, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure working with you on this stuff.
Of
And I'll
course,
say
love it, Ben.
cheers, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thanks,
Bye
everyone.
bye.